Okay, so have you ever like blasted through a level controller in hand and thought, I could make this, maybe even better?
Right.
Well, get ready because in this deep dive, we are going to jump headfirst into the world of making 2D platformer games. And you know what? No prior coding experience is needed.
Yeah.
We've been digging into this really cool course, and it's designed to take anyone from zero to game dev hero, all using the Unity engine.
And it's cool how this course makes it feel like something anyone can do, you know?
Yeah.
Like that moment you realize making a game isn't some like mystical art. It's a craft. You can learn it.
Totally, like demystifying a magic trick, but instead of it like ruining the illusion, it makes you want to try it yourself.
Exactly.
And speaking of which, we're talking 2D platformers, the genre that never gets old.
Yeah.
Think about it, games like Super Mario, Celeste, Hollow Knight. They're all instant classics,
They are.
built on running, jumping, and overcoming challenges. What is it about this genre that just clicks?
You know, I think it's the beautiful simplicity of it. You're immediately dropped into a world and it's got really clear goals. The controls feel good. It's a really great entry point for beginners. You can just focus on those core game design principles without getting, lost in the weeds of 3D graphics, complex physics simulations.
Yeah.
It's like, learning to draw. You start with stick figures before you can do hyper-realistic portraits.
Oh, I love that analogy. That's awesome. And this course really seems to embrace that. It starts with the very basics, like even just setting up Unity itself, which I have to admit can feel a little intimidating at first.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But they break it down into these manageable steps, and it's really cool to go from zero to, opening Unity, and suddenly you have the tools to build a game world right there in front of you. It's like stepping into a digital workshop.
Okay, so you've got Unity up and running. What's next? I imagine it's straight to coding, right?
Not quite. Before you dive into all that code, you need to know what you're going to be building with, right?
Mhm.
And that is where sprites come in. These are the individual images that are going to be representing everything in your game.
Yeah.
Your character, the background. Think of them like digital Legos.
Ah, so that's what sprites are. Okay.
Yes.
And so the course is teaching you how to work with those sprites, how to move them around.
Exactly. You'll be creating a basic character that can, move left and right, jump, interact with the surroundings. It's amazing how quickly those simple things start to feel like a real game.
You're not just reading about it, you're actually building a character. That's got to feel pretty good.
Oh, it's amazing. And here's the thing. These fundamental skills, working with sprites, understanding that basic movement, that's not limited to platformers, right?
Oh, wow.
This is the bedrock of NY 2D game you can think of. You're learning the visual language of game development right here.
So it's like you're learning the alphabet of game development. So you've mastered the basics, your character's jumping around. What's next in our game dev journey?
This is where things get really exciting. Now we're going to start adding some depth to the game, make it more addictive. We're talking about player controls, physics, artificial intelligence for the enemies.
Ooh, AI. That sounds complicated.
Right?
I feel like you need a robotics degree.
You'd be surprised. This course does a great job of breaking it down, and it starts with a simple example. The Goomba from Super Mario. So imagine that simple straight line movement, and then you start layering on the complexity. You learn how to create enemies that are predictable, but can still surprise the player.
Okay, that makes it a lot less scary.
Yeah.
I'm already coming up with ideas. So what about the worlds these enemies inhabit? The whole design has to be a huge part of making a platformer fun.
Huge. Good level design. That can make or break your game. And this course, they go beyond just play some obstacles here. It's about teaching you how to guide the player, how to pace the challenge, how to even use the environment to tell a story. And you know those secret areas that make players feel like they really discovered something?
Yeah.
How to do that too.
It's like you're an architect, but instead of bricks and mortar, you're using platforms and enemies and power-ups.
It really is. It's a blend of creativity and strategy, thinking about how each piece interacts to make something that is fun and engaging for the player.
Speaking of, have we all been there when you're playing a game and then it's like someone hit the slow-mo button lag?
Ugh, the worst.
It's the worst. So how does this course deal with those performance issues? Because that can plague even, promising games.
That's where performance optimization comes in. And this is absolutely crucial for any aspiring developer. Because you could design the most stunning world, but if it runs at like 2 frames per second, no one's going to want to play it.
It's like baking a cake that looks amazing but tastes like cardboard.
It's a good analogy, yeah.
So this course teaches you how to make your game run smoothly, even on, like, my old laptop.
Absolutely. It's about making it lightning fast. There are practical tips and tricks for streamlining your code, optimizing those assets, and making sure everyone has a good experience no matter what they're playing on.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. We've got characters moving and jumping, we've got these intelligent enemies, and now we're making sure the game runs smoothly. But what about when you hit a wall? You know, when you're just lost in the code, you have no idea what to do.
That is a common fear,
Right.
especially when you're starting out. But this course really anticipates those moments of frustration.
Hmm.
It's designed with that step-by-step approach. They break down even those complex things into these little digestible chunks.
So it's like having a tutor right there with you.
Exactly. And if you do hit a snag, don't worry. They've got tons of resources, clear explanations, examples, and wait for it, a supportive online community where you can connect with other students.
It's like having a team of adventurers, going on this game dev quest together.
Yes,
That's great.
they're there to support you.
Speaking of which, it's cool that this course doesn't just say, here's the code, figure it out. It actually teaches you how to think like a game designer. What does that even mean?
It means, approaching this with intention. It's about understanding what makes games fun, engaging, thinking about the player's experience, right? And it gets into stuff like project structure, making sure your code and assets are organized.
So not just making it work well.
Exactly. And it ties back into the performance optimization stuff we were talking about. You can have the best mechanics in the world, but if the game itself is a buggy mess, then it's game over.
And no one wants that. This is what's so cool. It's this blend of technical skill and creativity.
Yep.
You're writing code, but you're also crafting an experience and building worlds.
It's that intersection of art and technology.
Yeah, exactly.
And that brings us to something exciting. This hobby can actually turn into a career.
Okay, let's talk about that. The game industry. It's huge. It's everywhere. New games, new platforms all the time.
Oh, it's a booming.
And it feels like there's a real desire for, like, fresh voices and ideas.
Absolutely. Video games are a global powerhouse now.
Yeah.
And it's constantly evolving,
Mhm.
which is exciting. And there's a huge demand for people with these skills, both working at studios and just doing your own thing, going indie.
So how does this course, like, help someone break into all that? What makes this one stand out?
It's all about your portfolio,
Yeah.
having something to show that you made, like a game dev resume,
Yeah.
right? And this course gives you the tools to do that, because by the time you finish, you will have built a 2D platformer from scratch,
Wow.
from the ground up. So it's a testament to your skills, it shows you can do it, and you have something to show people.
That's gotta feel really good seeing your name in the credits of a game you made. That's amazing.
It is. It's your ticket to the professional world. Whether you go indie or work with a big studio, it shows them you've got the skills, the design sense, the experience to make something people want to play.
Right.
You're not just another applicant. You're a game developer.
So you're saying this could be a career path. From indie game dev to potentially working at a big studio. That's a lot of possibilities.
It is.
This is really inspiring, but I bet some people listening are thinking, that's great, but I don't know if I have what it takes.
I get it. It's easy to get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But honestly, taking that first step is often the biggest hurdle. You just need that little nudge sometimes. Everyone starts somewhere.
That's a good point. You don't have to be like a coding whiz or anything. It really is about passion, dedication, and being willing to learn. It's about the journey and enjoying the process.
It really is. And with the tools and stuff we have now, it's never been easier to get into game development. You don't need a fancy studio. You just need some creativity, a little determination, and a willingness to dive in and see what happens.
So what would you say to someone who's thinking about creating a video game? What would you say to them to encourage them?
I'd say just get started.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to experiment, to make mistakes, to learn as you go. That's where the magic happens. Find a course, find a community, find something that you connect with, like what we've been talking about today, and just start building. You might be surprised what you can create.
I love that. From zero to game developer, just one step at a time. It's a journey for sure.
It is.
But it's one that's filled with creativity and the joy of bringing your ideas to life.
That's right. And that idea of injecting personality into your game, that's really what we keep coming back to, right?
Yeah.
We've been talking about the technical stuff, how to build a platformer, but what about those moments that make a game really special, those little sparks of brilliance?
You're talking about the secret sauce that makes a game really sing, right? Like the
What-
difference between a cover band and the real deal. They're playing the same notes, but only one really moves you.
Exactly. And that's something this course gets. It pushes you to think outside the box, to tap into your own creativity. And one of the ways it does that is by talking about sound effects,
Okay.
which you might think sound effects, that's just like the icing on the cake,
Right.
but it's so much more than that.
All right, I'm intrigued now. I've definitely had those moments where the soundtrack or the sound design in a game just blew me away. But for a beginner course, how do you even approach something like that?
It starts by breaking down why sound works, how certain sounds make you feel a certain way when you're playing. Like imagine that perfect, satisfying thud when your character sticks a landing, or
Yes.
that creepy door opening in a dungeon.
Oh, yeah,
It
yeah.
creates that atmosphere.
It's like you're not just playing the game, you're in it.
Exactly. And you don't need to be some kind of audio wizard to make that happen.
Yeah.
This course, it gives you the tools, the tips and tricks to implement sound effectively, even if you don't have a lot to work with. You learn how to use sound to make the experience better, how to build tension, excitement, even humor.
Wow. So you're saying like sound design can be a storytelling tool. That's really interesting. Man, there is a lot more to game development than I ever thought.
There is, but that's what makes it so amazing. There's always something new to learn, something else to try, and you don't have to figure it all out by yourself. Remember that online community we talked about? That's where the real learning happens.
Right, because it's like you've got this built-in support system, people who are on the same journey as you. That's got to be so helpful.
It is, because you can troubleshoot code, but you can also just share ideas, celebrate each other's wins, get some encouragement when you need it. It's a safe place to experiment and ask those questions and learn from what other people are doing. Who knows? You might even find your next collaborator in there or your new gaming buddy.
Yeah, that's amazing. So we've talked about the actual, making of a 2D platformer, but it seems like this course is about way more than just code.
It is.
It's about really falling in love with this whole world of game dev, finding your people, getting those creative juices flowing.
It really is about giving people the power to make their ideas a reality.
Huh.
And that makes me think, what happens when you finish the game? What comes next?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
You've put so much work into this thing. How do you share it with people? Where do you even start?
It can feel overwhelming. Like, what do I do now? But that's where this course is really helpful.
Right.
It doesn't just leave you hanging.
Right.
It actually helps you get your game out there, from figuring out where it should live to, marketing and all that stuff.
Okay, so let's talk about that. We've gone from, like, I don't know how to code to I made a game.
Right.
But how do we get it into people's hands? What are some of the things to think about when you're trying to figure out, like, where it should be?
It all starts with your audience and the game itself, right? Like, are you picturing this on Steam?
Yeah.
Or would it be better on phones?
Mhm.
The course really makes you think about the pros and cons of each one. Like, who are you trying to reach? What can your game actually run on? And even, like, the overall vibe of the game matters.
It's like finding the perfect stage for a performance, right?
Exactly. Got to make sure it shines.
Mhm.
And once you know where it's going, it's time to start spreading the word, getting people excited for it to come out.
Yeah.
And that's where, marketing comes in,
Yeah.
which I know can feel intimidating, especially if you're doing this whole thing yourself.
Yeah, it's like, wait, now I have to be a marketing person too.
Right. It's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But what I like about the course is that it stresses the importance of finding your community way before the game is even done. Think about it. Your biggest fans are going to be the people who were there from the beginning.
Oh, that's a good point.
They saw it go from idea to reality.
So it's more than just like putting ads up everywhere. You have to actually build those connections with people.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
they give you real tips on how to do that, like how to talk to people on social media, how to get folks on your mailing list, even just sharing your process, that behind-the-scenes stuff. People love that.
That's what I think is so cool about indie games. It's all about that passion and just like connecting with people.
It really is. And it can be so rewarding. Maybe your game becomes the next big thing. Maybe it just brings some joy to a small group of people. But either way, you did it.
That's what matters, right?
Exactly. You created something. So to everyone listening, if you've ever had this dream, even just a little one, go for it. Take
Yeah.
that leap. You never know where it might lead.
You might even inspire the next generation of game devs. And that's an awesome legacy to have.
It is.